This is Eastmans Elevated Podcast. I have on great guests that are really knowledgeable, consistently successful. We're able to dive deep down the rabbit holes of these different subject matters of shooting, of physical fitness, of mental toughness and drive. All the different skills that make up a complete hunter that you can become.
Here's your host, Brian Barney.
Hey, what's happening, guys? I got a brand new Eastmans Elevated for you. So this week on the podcast, I have on Josh Kinser from Swagger Bipods. Josh is just a great guy. I've really enjoyed getting to meet him. He just has a great personality. He's a great storyteller, and he's really passionate about, his rifles and shooting. He's passionate about his hunting and about his family. And so we sit down in the Swagger booth. This is right at the end of the ATA show, and I get Ike Eastman on the recording and Dan Pickar, so it's the four of us, so kind of a round table discussion. And anytime you get four like-minded individuals together talking and joking around, it just makes for a great conversation. So it's real authentic, some great stories in it. We talk about Swagger in it. It's just a great recording that I enjoyed and that I know you guys will enjoy too. Sponsor for today's show is Swagger Bipods. So Swagger builds some great products, and we get into it in the podcast, but they make a bipod that mounts to your rifle. They just make it easier for tracking your target, for getting tension on those legs back into your shoulder. It's just got a bunch of great features. They also came out this year with their new shooting sticks, so maybe you prefer to carry them on your hip and not have it on your rifle and have a light rifle. They have those too, and those have a great design as well with tension as you pull down on them. But Swagger's just a great company that's building great products, that's improving accuracy with the rifle. So make sure to check them out, and us here at Eastman's really appreciate their support. And with that, let's see, what do we got going on over there at Eastman's? I've been in touch with guys over there. That ATA show is fun. They've been on the show circuit like crazy. They're on a marathon of shows. Every few days I look at or I see on social media that Ike or Brennan or Scott or Guy, they're all in different places. Dan Pickar, he's traveling around as well. So we have a show coming up. It's at the Hunt Expo, so I'm gonna go down there and do some recordings and hang out and enjoy the show down there. I hear there's some tags that you can apply for down there that you can only win or apply at the show. So I'm gonna bring a couple $100 of gambling money, and you never know. It's really my chance at some of these big adventure hunts. I'm such a blue collar hunter that I just love putting my name in the hat, and that's what I've been up to lately. Just a lot of tag research, and then just really trying to improve my hunting game. I know I talk about it all the time, but it's you set these goals, whether it's a trophy buck with my bow or a trophy bull, but then it's putting in the work to achieve those goals, and it's improving at every facet of my game, whether that's my shooting, whether that's my physical fitness, my mental toughness, my knowledge of these units, and then also taking risk and getting aggressive with my tags and making sure I end up with some quality hunts in 2019. But I just couldn't be happier with the way that Coos hunt ended up there in January, and just getting really excited. Really fortunate. I get to go hunt New Zealand this year in April. So just fine-tuning things. I'm tearing back apart my bow and resetting up. Just built some new arrows for it, and putting on I've got a new sight that I put on. A really cool, well-designed sight that from Black Gold that I'm psyched to get on there and get shooting. So I've got that. So just making some small adjustments here and there, and then running. It's -4 right now, and the wind's blowing and super cold. But I'm gonna finish up this intro and this ending, and me and my dog Gunnison, and we're gonna get on the trail. There's probably a foot of fresh snow, but it's perfect. It's great. Just getting out day in, day out and putting in the work to achieve my goals. So just couldn't be funner. Really excited to get together with these guys at the Hunt Expo. I got some great recordings that I put together, great recordings lined up. Just going to keep working really hard at this podcast, and and putting out good content. So with that, let's get this thing rolling. This is a really fun conversation. So Ike Eastman, Dan Pickar sit in on this, and Josh Kinser from Swagger, just a great guy, great storyteller, really enthusiastic, and I think you guys will enjoy him. And me, your host, Brian Barney, Eastmans Elevated. Here we go.
Give me a quick test.
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 Yep.
Test. 1, 2, 3.
All right, got all 4 mics. I'll start us off. Okay, I'm live here at the ATA. I've wrangled up Ike Eastman. We got him on the podcast today, and Dan Pickar, and then Josh from Swagger Bipods.
I think you need a raise to wrangle all of us.
I really do.
Pretty substantial.
I think that's a great point. But yeah, this has been really fun. We've been able to visit with some great people, and Josh is one of those people. He's been one of our partners on the podcast, and so we're excited to be able to sit down with you, Josh, and talk over some of the products you have. So I saw this new product that Scott was showing me, the shooting sticks.
Yes.
That is really cool. So the Swagger Bipod, I fell in love with it, the one that mounts to your rifle and the way it swivels and you get tension on it. But these sticks, that's a new product for you guys that I think is going to be great for the market.
Yeah, and we wanted to come out with a shooting stick that was, really lightweight that we knew, but we wanted to have one that also, you could still adjust on the fly while you're looking through your scope. And so, with the bungees in the top here, you can lean in, lean to the side, and make your adjustments while you're still looking through the scope and not, taking them off and fiddling. And they weigh nothing. And really, there's no shooting stick or no shooting rest that's going to fit every one hunter. So that's what we're just trying to do, is to accommodate everybody, so they can have, whatever they do in the field, whether it be, we're even working on some military stuff, but to be able to make those adjustments while you're in the scope and in the, heat of battle, or, you've got buck fever, which, which are both about the same thing when it comes to heart rate, but to be able to make those adjustments without coming out of the scope and fine tuning, something on the end of your rifle. So
shooting is all about the rest. Accuracy is all about the rest. But we're all individuals, and we all prefer different products or different ways to accomplish the same goal. But those shooting sticks are really neat. Like you say, they weigh nothing. I think they weigh a touch more than that. But they're super light, right? And they compress down really small, and then they have tension on them to where you can raise or lower the rifle with tension on it. So you're not trying to flop around these sticks to get your elevation correctly in your rifle. You throw down your sticks and then you're on it, and then you can move your rifle lower or higher with this tension, and it stays right there. I just think it's a really cool product that people are going to really like.
Yeah, and when you really need to lock it out, you just grab, below the two handles, and just make a fist, and it's not going to be able to go below that. So, those things. I know Scott's does a whole lot of backcountry and backpacking hunts, and that's, ounces are important, and there's only so much you can fit in your backpack. So I think that's going to fit and accommodate a lot of folks. And we're really excited about them.
Yeah, that's way cool. What other products do you have coming out?
Well, as crossbows have kind of evolved and we've run into the safety features, a lot of the crossbow bottoms have changed. You've got grips that are trying to keep the hands and the thumbs away from the rails, and when that happened, there's hardly any way to mount the traditional Swagger that we had, the Hunter series, on those. So we worked on that, and at the same time we were trying to find shotgun attachments, and we realized we kind of need to make a quick detachment to accommodate both of those. So we have we're calling it the QD. We've got one that'll extend to 42 inches and another one that'll extend to 72. But it'll take, if you've got a pick rail, it'll slide, it'll just clip on and off that, but we've got adapters that come with it for your sling swivel stud. It has a little pick rail, on the top of it, you screw that into your sling swivel stud, and then you just clip on and off. And then for the shotgun, basically the same thing, except it's going to screw into the tip of your magazine too.
Wow.
And, the quick detach has been, for me personally, I still love the Hunter series because I have some sort of deficiency where, no matter what shooting stick I have, I'm going to leave it in the truck or it's going to be left, so I like having it attached to my rifle. But, I know a lot of others, they really like this quick detach idea, and it was something that was continually brought up to us by customers. So we worked on it for a couple of months and came out with it, and I think it's going to be fantastic. I know there's a lot of excitement about it.
Mm-hmm. So the quick detach, is that going to be on the standard Swagger bipod as well for rifles?
No, we don't have a way to do that yet.
Okay.
This quick detach will be specifically for that QD model.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So
you still have the same Swagger legs that you do. It's the same legs, still have springs. It just doesn't have the body or the, for lack of a better term, the turtle shell for the legs to go back inside.
And describe the legs again, because I really feel like your bipod setup, and I feel like your sticks, they're unique to the market, and they're unique to the market because of the tension with the springs in your shooting. Can you describe that a little bit and what advantages it gives you as a shooter?
Well, I think, and one thing that invariably comes up, people say, well, can you load it? And, so loading is, I think it's a great concept, but it's often misunderstood. And loading is just simply forward pressure. But, loading was really came about to deal with your second shot, bipod hop, but also, you want to lock in, but if you don't load and you don't put that pressure in, your bipod's going to jump and you're going to be off target for a second shot. So we minimize that with the springs, but I still tell you can load. It's just a little bit different. And you're either, if you've got a spring, you've got a little bit more movement when it's hanging down, but if I apply tension to it, then that movement becomes less and less. So by either pushing forward, but I actually like leaning back. So when I get locked in, we want you to not just be there. We want you to settle in by leaning forward or leaning back, whether it's in the prone or seated, so that you then can get your shooting elbow on a knee or exactly how you need to set up the rest of your body. Because, the front part of the rest is great, but if the back end of you is swinging and loose, you're just a gate in the wind. And, you're not going to hit anything that way either. So we want you to lean in or lean back using that spring and the ability to then, if you're seated, to pull your knee up and lock yourself into a nice, tight, all-around good shooting position. And you just can't do that with traditional shooting sticks and traditional bipods. You're pretty much, you're locked in, and then you've kind of got to build your position up about, you have to have the right size jacket and backpack that you can put under your elbow, when you're shooting down at an angle. So we want you to be able to use that spring and lock the rest of your body down.
Yeah. One of the things that I did this later this fall is had the traditional Swagger on the front of the gun, and I used your shooting sticks for my elbow, and because you can apply pressure to it to get the elevation right, and that worked unbelievably. I mean, it's like shooting off a bench then. Yeah,
we Brandon and Scott had told me about that, and I was down at our ranch in Texas, and I went and played around with it, and I mean, it's you're solid. I mean, we shot a couple of does that way out of a pop up.
Yeah,
and it's on this pipeline where, shooting out of a pop up, it's tough sometimes as you start getting past 100 yards, 150 yards. Everybody goes, oh, it's just well. There's not much to balance in there,
right.
But, we took two of them at almost 300 yards. And, I mean,
you don't have a card table with you?
I don't have a card table, yeah. I know some guy had said, hey, all you got to do when you go hunting is take a card table with you. You don't need a Swagger. So.
I've tried to attach it to my backpack. It just doesn't – it's hard to walk down the trail.
Yeah, it seems real practical, but, yeah.
It's funny, some of the things that we get told, by shooting experts that come through different conventions and on social media. And, one of the things, and I don't understand this attitude, but it does pop up. We'll do a video or something, and you'll invariably get these guys that'll say, oh, only people that use shooting rests were just never taught to shoot. You should be able to shoot offhand at any target. And, wow. And the difference is they have this attitude, and I see it a lot, but to me, it's like, it's almost, what am I, not very ethical for me to just sit here and think I can I can get in some good shooting positions that we had to learn in the military, but I'm never going to be one of the principles of marksmanship in the Army is find and maintain a steady rest.
Yeah, that's crazy. Hunting the Pacific Northwest, like sometimes you get some quick shots up close and I can see it then, but to have that be, what you base your shooting and your accuracy on, they must have never shot at a target. Like accuracy is all about the rest, and I thought it was really good you guys bringing up that back elbow. That makes such a difference with your shooting. It just stabilizes you front and back, and like you said, it's almost like a bench rest accuracy then, but shooting is all about the rest. And my kids, I mean, they'd never kill a deer if they had to shoot offhand. They're not strong enough to hold up the gun.
Oh, no.
I mean, I'm a huge guy, but my daughters aren't that big. So my daughters, they have a hard time holding up a rifle and holding it steady freehand, but like to put them on a Swagger, then they can shoot it comfortably and they can shoot it accurately. It's all about the rest.
One of the things I like to show people is the difference between a solid, what it can do for you. So I oftentimes see people shoot from a kneeling position in what I think is incorrect, where the knee underneath the shooting hand is the one on the ground. And so if you just are sitting at home and you try the difference to see how stable you are between that and then switching your knee and having the knee up under your elbow. And it's funny because there's a lot of people who are like, man, I've never thought of that. But it is like night and day. And it's the difference between maybe hitting and pretty sure you're going to hit. And, because that back end starts floating around. And the floating elbow is a bad thing that has ruined many, many hunts.
Yeah, my dad came from the Pacific Northwest, and so, and he wasn't military based, so he's had to learn all this, but it's the only reason he harvested his mountain goat 2 years ago. We killed a really nice buck together this year in Wyoming that he shot, but it's all setting him up with that good rest. That shooting position is so important, but when you're in the field, it's just different. Like, you think you could get set up to shoot anything anywhere, but then you start to get set up to try to make a 300-yard shot or even a 200-yard shot. You start getting set up, and then you go, oh, that's not comfortable, or, oh, I'm laying downhill, or, the Swagger accomplishes that, like, in any terrain. You can get set up for a stable shot, and I think that's what's so important. But it's going to do nothing but improve accuracy.
And I think another thing is when you're using, like, let's say you're out in the field and you're just using a conventional bipod and you're trying to get set up and you start fatiguing those back muscles and you're trying to get in awkward positions, all of a sudden that barrel starts doing figure eights and and
then you're trying to choose when the rifle goes, which is a horrible habit to get into too.
Yeah, so I mean, like you said with your daughters, it keeps fatigue down and being able to get in that position without stressing and getting into it. I mean, man, I can think of some times where I was like, felt like I was going to break some, ripped muscles in my back trying to get on tar at really, really high angles in New Zealand. And you get to that point where you're like, I can't get the crosshairs, above the feet. I need to get them just a little, but it's in here we can just kind of move the springs around and get into that position and then get locked down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Hunting tar in New Zealand, man, that sounds like fun.
Did you do that this year?
No, I haven't done that in years. And I may be too old to do it anymore. But
don't tell me that because I haven't done it yet.
But the way we did it, we had a camera guy that we knew who was also an outfitter, and we were hunting public land. And we didn't want to do the outfitter route. And really, there's no trails. There's no way to get up in those mountains. So we just got dropped off in different base camps for days at a time at a helicopter. Oh. And helicopters are just part of the –
that's part of the deal.
Oh, yeah, you just get – and now don't get me wrong. There are some high fence places and things where they take people up at the top, and but that's not what we were doing. We were literally just getting our stuff dropped off. And, growing up even years ago, you hear all these New Zealand hunters, and that's kind of what they did. They would have a 4-day weekend, and the son and his dad would go get dropped off somewhere for 4 days, and then it picks them up. And
yeah.
So that to me has been – I did that 2 years in a row several years ago. It's my favorite hunt that I've ever done. It's the hardest hunt that I've ever done.
Really?
I mean, we had a camera guy that had a high ankle sprain, broke his leg. I cut all the way through my – it's just – it isn't at the elevations like we might have in Colorado or Wyoming, but everything is straight up from sea level to like 6,000-7,000 feet.
Yeah.
And, you look at these, everybody asks what the elevation, it's like it doesn't matter. Like this is where Sir Edmund Hillary trained to go climb Mount Everest.
Right. Yeah, it's where they filmed the movie Everest.
Yeah, and some of it is just so it's just beautiful, and I would go back in a heartbeat. I'd love to go do it again. We had so much fun in amidst the pain and just
Type 2 fun.
yeah, type 2. Is that what it's called?
I like that.
Yeah, I'm going in April. I bought my plane tickets already. I cannot wait.
Oh my gosh, it is. Now I'll tell you, the first time we went, there were 3 days we sat. We couldn't get up in the mountains, and it was so foggy, and we were just afraid we were just going to bump and keep pushing the tar. But gosh, I've been in the midst of tar when they're running and just trying to get set up, and they're tough animals. I mean, you have to make a very good shot with a good quality bullet.
There's a lot of hair there too, right? So they're actually smaller than they appear when you're looking at them.
Yeah, so they're real heavy. Their bone structure is real dense, but they fight a lot. And, so a mature one, it could be over 10, 15 years, but you get all this scar tissue up on top of that fat, which they've got layers and layers of scar tissue, fat, and then bones that just don't break. And that, those bullets, you need to just think of it like as an African game. When you shoot it, just shoot it again.
Yeah. Just keep hitting it until it dies.
Because they're tough. But I tell you, it's so fun. You've got me excited now. But they're able to generate static electricity when they're rutting, and you keep seeing these tar, and you're asking, is that a mature one? Because a mature, a trophy's like 12 inches versus 10 inches. So it's so hard for the non-trained eye to look at that. You're like, how do we know? How do we know? And you'll know. And then you see that first tar that's just fluffed his hair up, and he looks like a, black bear. You're like, oh, okay, that's what we're looking for.
And they do that through static electricity?
Yeah, the New Zealand guys were telling us they flex their muscles and somehow but the hair comes and it stands like straight up.
Really?
And
I have never heard that.
They stink.
I bet you. So, do you eat them?
We tried. I've always tried to eat anything, and I had people tell me don't eat chamois. We ate chamois. We had a great time. We roasted one. We had backstrap. Ooh, man, my tar was
a little rough, was it?
My tar was rough, but I tell you, we ate it in camp. We ate the backstraps, and it was, there were parts we had to cut out that were scar tissue and whatnot, and it was just extremely tough.
Yeah, I heard a story yesterday that you take a boot off, get a boiling pot of water, take a boot off, throw it in the pot of water, throw the backstraps in there, and then eat the boot.
And I think it's more how old they get. When you're shooting. We did shoot for camp a nanny tar, and it was considerably better and didn't have that musk smell. But
okay,
still a little tough.
I had a backpack that I carried my first tar down in, and my wife ended up, after it sat in the garage, and then the second time I carried it down, and she made me throw it away. I mean, it was a nice Easton backpack, but she was like, that thing is gone.
I am tired of my garage smelling like that.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to wash it. We tried, and it was. She's like, this backpack, I don't care what it costs you. It's gone. It's either you or the backpack.
I was going to say, I appreciate a really stinky bull elk. I mean, that's part of the deal. Mm-hmm. But this sounds like
this
next
is a
level
different
stink.
This is a different
type 2 stink, Brian.
Appreciate a type 2 stink.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's like rooming with you two.
It's almost like a real bad smelly sock that's got some sour mash mixed in there. It's a very eloquent bad smell.
Glad we're eating lunch after this.
Well, yeah, that's so wild. Well, I'm going to go there. I'm so excited just to see the country and immerse myself at it. Like you say, it's straight up 7,000 feet from sea level, but it just looks beautiful. Some of those, the glacial fed lakes in and through there, the rocks. And I just love that above timberline. And I like what you said, like the challenging nature of the hunt, the challenging nature of the shots. Just trying to get around. You said somebody broke their leg, their cameraman?
Yeah, he got up on a ridge, and he went through he slid down the scree and just he thought it was just a high ankle sprain. I mean, I taped it up real good, and of course we get back, and the doctor was like, hey, it was actually broken.
Man.
It's like it is. There's several shots that I turned down on day 1 or 2 when you look at it and you're like, it's 5:30, we got 45. Like, there's no way I'm going to recover that animal. It's going to take me an hour and a half to get up to it, if I shoot it. So, you pass a couple of times like that because you just have to you have to appreciate and respect just how hard it is to traverse that terrain, which, you know. And then the thing, too, that you really have to – it's a little bit different. It's almost like Alaska, you know, where they say the weather comes in. You can be sitting there and be like, oh, man, it's sunny, and then 10 minutes later you're in a snowstorm.
Yeah.
And you're trying to find your way back to camp, and all of a sudden you can't see camp, and, you know. And
coastal weather that can move in and out really quick, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I also love, you know, hunting. New Zealand has a really, really rich and unique hunting tradition that, you know, it's slightly different from ours, certain aspects of it, but they are hunters. They love it.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan went over there last year, right?
Yep.
To the North Island.
Yep. So I was telling these guys is you cannot outwalk a Kiwi.
No.
You can't. Yeah. No, you think
That's
you're
saying something coming from you.
Yeah, no,
it really
you're
is.
Backcountry hunter, and we walk a lot. Me and Brian, I mean, that's what we do. And those guys over there are just as hardcore, if not more, and there's more of them per capita.
Wow.
And yeah, they do crazy things. To go on giant missions 12 miles in for a red deer and come back out the next day after they just throw down their camp somewhere with a little fly and curl up in a ball and go to sleep and hunt red deer, you know, red stag in the morning, and then walk 12 miles out through just country up and down, and it's a tangle, it's jungle, and it's like, wow.
These guys need a hobby.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
they have one, huh?
They're usually rugby
Walking,
players,
it
too.
sounds like.
Yeah, walking. Yeah.
You know, you know, it's you talk. When I was in Nepal years and years ago, and I went up to Everest Base Camp, and I was in the best shape of my life. I ran track in college. I was fit, and I'm carrying this backpack, and I'm passing all these other Americans, and, you know, I'm going to get up to top. And all of a sudden, I just heard, "Excuse me, mister," and I think I'm going like at Mach 3, and this little Nepali guy wearing homemade flip-flops it's got to be like 7 or 9, you know, just 7 or 8 24 packs of Coca-Cola that he's hauling up to white people that want to drink Coke. And it's the weirdest backpack. It's like a long board that hangs down to like his calves, and it's got a strap not going around his shoulders but his forehead. He goes past me like I was going backwards. And then there was like another one, and it was just humbling to think like, wow, I'm in good shape. And you're like, no.
Those Sherpas.
These guys have lungs bigger than, you know, bigger than
And they got short legs. That's a lot of steps.
It's a lot of steps.
Well, and there wouldn't be nearly as many people that made it to the top without those Sherpas, if any. Like I think even the first ascent, you know, they use the Sherpas a bunch. But those Sherpas also, they're acclimated. You know, they grow up in those elevations, and so they process their oxygen better up there just because they're used to it. They're raised in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same in Tajikistan.
Yeah.
Those guys smoking cigarettes, and they have junky gear, and
that's how Mongolia was.
Yeah, they're
guys
just
walking around he's walking around in dress shoes without shoelaces, smoking a cigarette, walking me into the dirt. I'm crushing. What in the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I haven't experienced that, you know, because I usually only hunt the States, and everywhere I go, I can always keep up, if not leading the way. So, yeah, that would be a little humbling for me to have somebody smoking a cigarette and passing me up. And I think, what in the heck am I doing? I got to take up smoking cigarettes or something.
Exactly.
What's in those cigarettes?
Well, you know, I found I guess I could feel a brief moment of what they felt like. I remember we actually slept up in Gokyo-ri in the valley. It was like 16.6. So we're sleeping at 16.6 for a week. And, I mean, it was wearing you out. You had cuts on you that just didn't heal. And anyway, I come back down. We were starting to get a little sick, and so we went down to like 11.5. And I was like, oh, my gosh. Like, you know, I felt like I could just run around in circles. It
felt like you took a 100-pound backpack off.
And I was like, this is how those Sherpas feel up here.
That's exactly right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's amazing the difference of what altitude can do. And, you know, we go to Colorado every year. My in-laws live there, and we always like to climb some of the 14ers around there. And we just have to remind everybody, like, we're not going to do this on day one. We got to sit here and hang out for 3-4 days. You know, you're coming from Houston, Texas, and you think you're going to be at 14,000. It's going to ruin your day.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to ruin your day. Mm-hmm. So sit here in Lake City at 8,500 and just relax,
chill for a while.
Try not to drink a whole bunch of beer, and, you know.
Yeah, hydrate.
Try, huh? Yeah, acclimating is so important on those high elevation hunts. and even for the guys going to hunt Colorado or Wyoming or even up at 10,000, just getting used to that elevation and trying to camp up high. Like I know every time I hunt Colorado, I'll go over a saddle and then that's where I'll try to sleep at 10, 11,000 feet where I'm driving, and then I'll hike in the next day. But any extra days you can get at elevation sure helps you acclimate.
Yeah, and when you sleep at elevation, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but you sleep horrible, especially if you're not used to it.
Yeah.
So, getting a couple of nights in at a 8,500 or something and getting up there. But I remember when we were sleeping at that 16.6, it was like you would roll over and on your pillow maybe one nostril gets closed and you just wake up like somebody was strangling you, like in the middle of the night, like and
Jeez. That was Tajikistan.
that made me call
Type 2 fun.
Yeah. Tajikistan.
That's
Dan knows all about that.
Yeah.
He just died last year.
Yeah.
That was
What did you get in Tajikistan?
Yeah, HAPE, high altitude pulmonary edema.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, lungs filled with fluid, and
That's a bad deal, man.
Camp was at 12.5, and we were up 14.5, and then I could really feel it starting to hit me, and then we hiked up to 15.5 the next day, and that was the most miserable experience of my life.
Oh, I bet.
And then spitting up the fluid, and then being back down in camp for 3 days and eating Cialis and Diamox, trying to get better.
Oh man.
So just to circle back, you were talking about that tar hunt and your back almost going out, just trying to get on aim on those things. Did you have the Swagger back then?
No. This was years ago, and it was we'd seen a couple of young tar. We came up over the saddle, and the guy had been like, "Hey, y'all just get up on the top. We'll split up. You go down." Well, I get up there, and there's ice that's been in the shadows all day. I can see our camp, but I'm like, "Hey, no way, I'm going down that." Like, I'm gonna step.
I don't have a pair of crampons.
Like I am, that is like, I don't even think I'd go down that with an ice axe and crampons. It was, that ice just sits in the. So we came back around, and as we're coming, I just see this tar standing like up on the ridge, way above. He's like on a rock, and he's just standing, looking. He got up on the high point looking, and I found these two boulders, and I could get the crosshairs just. But, when I would pull off, I would have to take an elbow off the rock, or I would have to, and I just couldn't get into position. And then finally I'm looking at it, and I'm like, man, we got 45 minutes to get.
Oh, boy.
Like, I think we're going to have to just move on from this guy. But he was maybe 250 yards, and it just was one of those shots I just couldn't get comfortable and didn't feel ethical taking, and it's it's when you bend, and it's, if y'all know, that's that moment where you start getting like that, and every time you try to get there, you start
wiggling,
shaking and wiggling, and no matter what position you get in, you just can't quite find the right one. And
It had to be some of the spark which gave you the idea to create the Swagger Bipod, getting in those shooting positions, and also just your knowledge of shooting, all your military experience and learning, what a steady shot takes, the rest, and that's probably where you came up with the idea. Huh?
Well, the inventor, essentially, when he came up with this, he was a coyote and predator hunter that was disabled, and as he got older and older, it became harder for him to do. So, one of the things I kind of like to say is, like, a lot of what we got now was brought on by frustrated hunters. I know you talk why I like that so much, attached to my gun. Both those tar hunts, I had two different, which are our competitors now, and I had two different versions of those products in my backpack. And both times I'm walking along, and I had to lay on the ground, and it was go time, and I couldn't even get to my shooting six. And, I ended up making it happen, but the products that I'd brought with me that I was so excited that were going to help me make a shot were, sitting on my back, and I got a tar staring at me at 150 yards. And
that's where I think you separate yourself from the competition. And having it attached, but just how you can keep on target and keep moving and keep a stable position. I think that's the difference.
And it doesn't matter because one of the problems with shooting sticks is they work great on a flat surface, but that's not real world application. So you have hills and rocks and trees and stumps, and that's the beauty of Swagger, is you just be able to move that leg in and out whatever side to make it level. And a lot of people, just like archery hunting, you got to shoot a gun level or else you're going to miss, because the scope because of that. I don't know. There's some
The
name
cant
for it.
or the
the
lean.
cant, yeah. And if you have a shooting stick that doesn't allow that quickly, you're going to miss.
Well, and how many
hard.
times have you gotten set up with your shooting stick and all perfect, and you go, got it, and then the animal moves 10 feet to the right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you're sitting up and you're moving and you're exposing yourself again to being seen.
Movement,
And
And takes seconds, and things happen quick in the field. You have to be able to get on target and make your shot because that animal may only be stopped for a couple seconds. So if you've got to pick up those sticks and scramble over, even if that animal doesn't see you got to get back on target, back stable, and seconds, 20, 30 seconds maybe, or maybe more, to where this
or
you can
adjusting a
pivot.
leg,
you can move over. So I think that's the difference with the Swagger Bipod.
Yeah, and you think like last year, I used this mule deer hunt that, I had a mule deer come out in this valley, and when I see him, he's only 125 yards from me. So I'm in a seated position, but he's on does. He cuts in and goes straight uphill running Mach 2 after a doe. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, he's at 250. I can still make this. All right, he's at 350. And I'm like, I need to go prone. I got to go prone here. And I'm able to just slap the legs back in. Unfortunately, I ended up having to take a 450-yard shot because he wouldn't cooperate. He was thinking about does. But, that I would have had to have two products to do that.
Right.
To go from that. And so that kind of happened the opposite way, but being able to quickly get into prone was I wouldn't have wanted to take that shot in the wind there at 450 from those other positions.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. So when I go to New Zealand, I'm hunting tahr up high, which I'm really looking forward to. But I also get an opportunity towards the end to hunt some public land red stag. So I heard you talking earlier that you made a heck of a long shot on a red stag. Was that this season that you were hunting red stag?
I bought this Argentina stag hunt at a auction like years ago.
How cool.
And then we kept having kids and it kept getting delayed, so me and my wife we went, and it was actually the first morning. It was right at the end of the roar, and they were kind of saying like, they've kind of died down. Well, it got down to like 15 and it just opened them back up.
Wow.
And as we're trying to get up to the mountain, like we have the truck windows up because this place, it's Parque Diana, it's like 80,000 acres of private land, and we're driving to get in the backs there, and you can just hear them going crazy, and it's in the dark, and we're like, okay, let's get out here, and we get stopped, and we just start moving our way, and we can hear stag roaring everywhere, and we see one up on this hill. He's got two cows with him, or two does. I don't ever really know what to call stag females.
Hinds.
I want to call them like they're elk, but
I have the same problem.
So we get there, and this guy is sitting up. He's big, wide, and he's not coming down off this hill, and you can hear all these other ones. So he's like, you like him? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, if he's going to stay up there, you're going to be okay with like a 500-yard shot. I can get us. I'm like, yeah. So I'm starting to prepare. I'm going, okay, I got I'm 30-06. I'm starting to figure out my holdovers, and I'm getting all ready, and we get down in there, and we go to get where we're going to go sit up. Here he comes running by, just whoa! And he comes flying by, goes down there. He's like, oh, quick, we got to go to the next field. So we go down to that field to try to get set up. He comes running right back by. He's like, okay, and I've got this guy who's great. He's can't speak hardly any English, and his name's Lobo, and has like he's a real gaucho with leather vest and everything, and we get set up, and we're trying to get back, and these two young stag catch us, and we just have to drop. And so I just get the Swagger set up, and here comes the stag back down from the hill, and I'm like, okay, now I'm not going to have to make a 500-yard shot. He's going to stop right there. The young one runs. It's going to be 100. Well, man, he turned and ran right at us, and he goes, there's a little dip, and so I'm like, I know he's running at us, and when he pops up, he's 12 yards. And I'm like zooming my scope back, like,
off the 15 power.
And just got like, I could see shoulder and neck and lean back, and I was, just leaning back and hit him right in the shoulder. And he ran, a few yards away, but man, it was just, it was fantastic. And, I know those mornings are rare when you get them where they're, whether it's elk or stag, but it was so vocal. And my wife had never heard that vocalness from, even elk. And man, it was wild. And you're just, it's so funny because the whole time I'm just sitting here preparing for a long shot. I'm getting my brain ready, and nope, 12 yards.
That's when you go, dang it, I should have brought my bow.
What a great experience, though. What a great adventure. And I just love those moments in life where you find that action, and whatever it is, whether it's the red deer in the roar or elk in the rut or mule deer, but you get these special moments that take so much time and effort to put yourself in that time in that place. And all you can do is just try to soak up the experience while you're there. But it sounds like you got the most out of yours.
And that the time frame that I just explained, it was about 3.5 hours that all that's going on, where we're just going back and forth, and
right.
God, this guy was just going crazy. But I mean, it was so loud when we got down into the woods that we were having to, when we whispered to each other, be right on the ears because it was just nonstop roaring.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty close to Lobo.
Yeah, that's pretty close to Lobo. But that to me, that was one of those times where I'll remember that forever. Just because I mean, he's running. I don't think he knew we were there, but I mean, he stops like at 12 yards, and he's like, "Oh, what is that?" And luckily I was ready because I don't think I would have had much of a chance once he, got a whiff of us.
No, things happen quick sometimes, and you just have to react. Let instincts take over.
Yep.
Yeah, how cool. Well, I know us at Eastmans, we really appreciate the partnership with you. I think Swagger Bipods are great, and I really enjoy talking to you, Josh, and I just appreciate you taking the time from this busy show and coming on and helping us with the recording.
Absolutely, and I wanted to give you one, from our last conversation, we talked about hunting with kids.
Yes.
And so my daughter got her first doe over New Year's.
Oh, wow.
We've really been struggling. She's 7, and she's struggling with eye relief in the scope. And so we have been working on that. And if anybody else is having that problem, we did something kind of crazy outside the box. We had the Swagger set up, but I had an old iPhone 4 that I hooked up to the phone scope.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And let her sit back on the stock, and then I was able to make
what
sure she was
seeing.
And, she dropped it right in its tracks. But, she was so ready to hunt, but that one hurdle of the scope eye relief was just – and it was frustrating her so much because she's probably a little ahead of schedule. I mean, she's done a lot more than I did when I was a little kid. But, she shot a hog when she was 5 using the SIG thermal, and that was the same thing. But my middle one – can almost get on the scope better, but I had a 6.5 Grendel, that CZ one, and that's a perfect caliber for her because it doesn't kick a whole lot,
right?
And man, the scope, it would just get her frustrated. So as just a follow up for our
we
So
talked
you're telling me 7's not too young?
Here's what I believe.
Because my 9-year-old is chomping at the bit.
I believe I've done youth hunting programs forever, and I have seen kids, and I've actually had 4-year-olds kill deer.
Oh, my
and I've
word.
actually not let 14-year-old kids that weren't there. And I think it's just on the individual. My daughter, I told her a while back, after she killed the hog, that as long as she had to hit those targets, that she could. And, she didn't work at it. Mm-hmm. And she kept getting frustrated. And so I believe it's up to each individual kid, and I don't think there's any, and when she did shoot that, we had some people on social media that got all mad about it and said you shouldn't be allowed to hunt until you're 12, and and so I would rather be able to decide when my kid hunts than the government.
Yep.
So
that's the right way to go.
I know my kid
Yeah.
better than the government.
Josh, congratulations.
I'm hoping the government doesn't know my kids. Except for the write-off. I'll take that.
Yeah, that is so great. And my youngest daughter shot her first deer on the Swaggers this year. She's Montana. We have a mentorship program, and they do have an age restriction, but she's 10, and it was the perfect age for her, and she's been out with me hunting quite a bit, and she's really into it. But it's a different experience when they get behind the rifle and they get to shoot for themselves. So for her to be able to work up to that, and then this year get her shot, and she made a heck of a shot on that deer. So me as a dad, I put some restrictions on her. I want her to shoot 100 yards and in, and I want it to be a controlled scenario where I can get her on her rest, I can get her set up, and we practiced her shooting positions a ton. Getting her set up, acquiring the target, squeezing the trigger, and then shooting live rounds as well. And so we did a lot of practice beforehand, before a season. But as you know, in hunting, it doesn't always happen as you plan. And so 100 yards are in, and so we had a deer come out, and I'm decent at judging yardage at 50, 40 yards, but once it gets out there, I'm not very good at judging yardage. So this deer comes out, and it's jogging across the field, and it's a spike, and it's we're maybe 15 minutes before dark or whatever, but it's jogging across the field trying to get to its food source. So I said, okay, let's get you set up. Let's get you on it, get her set up on it. And little did I know that deer was closer to 200 yards than 100 yards,
Whoops.
And the deer paused once, and I said, if you're on it, you can squeeze. And the deer takes off again, and I kind of grunt at him, and then that deer stops, and she put it on him. One perfect shot, and the deer ran maybe 15, 20 yards and dumped in the brush right there. And she was so excited. And
That's awesome.
to be able to share that an adventure with her, because it got dark, and then we had to process the deer, and then I got us just a little turned around in the swamp coming back. But we had this adventure with wet feet and wet legs, and she had harvested her first deer, and then we're so into the meat, and then Mom's cooking steaks the next night from Katie's deer. It was just so
that was a
neat.
big part of hers. So I had my other girls with me, and it was busy. So we do take some of the deer to a processor, and so I told Hattie, I said, look, you can pick whatever. She was so excited. It took forever because she's like, oh, I want this sausage and this, but it's interesting to see, because now when we're cooking this deer meat, she wants, is that my deer?
Oh, yeah.
Is that my deer?
Oh, yeah.
And she has some sort of pride in being
Accomplishment.
able to. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the most important thing. I mean, I remember when she shot that hog like it was my father-in-law's birthday. And she was like, oh, we have to take this to Granddad. We have to. She was sat out there by the grill with me while we put those back straps of the hog on. And
That's so cool.
I think that's what's important is just, and I made her work for it. She works in the off season at that ranch. She, fixing fence or fixing water troughs or whatever it is. I mean, she's out there, and I just believe, I wasn't going to let her take a buck or anything like that. I want her to shoot some does and work up to that. And when she shows me that she's ready and she has the ability to hit even better, then then we may talk about it. And
I took both of my girls on my Wyoming antelope hunt this year, and my wife actually, and it was so much fun.
It's a blast
to watch. I've heard this a lot, and I didn't really grasp it until it actually happened. But to watch hunting through your kids' eyes is so freaking cool. It's way funner than me actually shooting stuff.
Well, when
and
she
I
shot,
can't
I about
imagine.
blacked out. I hardly remember the morning. I'm like,
I can't imagine actually watching them kill their, take their first animal. That's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, and I think it's great. You got her started so young, and you put the time and effort in, and I think it's great. You also thought outside the box, trying to solve that problem of the eye relief and the scope. I think that's so cool, and you guys are building a relationship and something you can enjoy, for years to come, and she'll always look back and remember that moment, as will you. But I think that's really neat.
Well, and, there's a big conversation right now in Wyoming at the state level of, because you have to be 12 to hunt in Wyoming. It used to be 14 when I was a kid. And what they found out is at 14, the kids get distracted. They don't want to hunt anymore. So they're talking about doing a mentorship where it's even younger. So it's like 7, 8. And if the kid's ready, get them addicted to it early so that they have that passion for hunting going forward all through their crazy high school years. Which is one way to keep them out of trouble.
I 100% agree, and I think that you've got to have the mindset that's different today than we were 10, 15 years ago, because, when people say that, even a few years ago when I was running, programs for kids whose dads were killed were coming in and hunting.
Yeah.
If they hadn't been exposed to it and they're 13, 14, they're wanting to do nothing but play video games and be on
screen
their phone.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Too
so
far gone.
That's why we've had that kind of.
Yeah, my oldest this year, the only reason that she's into hunting, 15-year-old girls, they don't, not all of them are out in the outdoors and trying to hunt, but her, because she was raised in that and because I exposed her to it and she's been hunting ever since the start. She was 15 this year, and we got her on an adventure hunt, and she shot her best buck ever, a 4-point, but we were able to spend time together, driving out there and having these important conversations just about school and about friends and life and expectations. we get to bond and have this great time driving there and back. She kills her best buck, but there's not too many 15-year-old girls that are that excited about going to hunt mule deer, but she is because we exposed her young.
Well, and I think, too, long-term, you got to think about, you all are in a lot of fights right now with public land access and, keeping this stuff going. So if we don't teach that next generation, you only protect what you love.
Right.
You don't protect things that you don't know and you don't understand and you don't love. And so that's what we have to do is not only the heritage of hunting, but whether it's public land or archery, whatever it is, if we don't teach that to our kids, who is? I mean, the school systems aren't going to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Isn't there a Trace Atkins song that's she just thinks we're fishing? It's about a little girl that goes fishing with a pink rod.
Mm-hmm.
That's
a
true.
Cool song. Of course, I'm dad of 2 girls, so.
So yeah,
me too.
I'm 3, and my little one is already, she just turned 3 December 1, and I mean she's already like asking when, because Hattie's got to go to South Dakota, so the little one will get back. She goes, when am I going to go to South Dakota? Like South Dakota's like to them,
it's an adventure hunt.
It's like the pinnacle of life, South Dakota, and so
don't ever say that again.
Hey, this is the girls. I mean, they think South Dakota is just and that's, I think it's just from the. We went this year, and of course we didn't get a deer, but like we're out on this reservation, and all these horses run up. It's freezing cold, and they have ice on their backs. And Hattie goes to break the ice off of them. Well, all the horses were like, "Oh, that felt good." So and she's horse crazy, And this is a moment out in the woods. It's 8 degrees, -5 wind chill, and she's not dressed for it, and just breaking ice off these horses' backs. But that's something that it's just part of being outdoors and being outside. And
that's so cool.
I just want to continue to make sure that they love it, because we know there's going to be a time where they're tested with phones and different things in high school and boys. And I think if we can build that foundation, we can hopefully, for the next generation, keep passing this on.
Yeah, you have the right approach.
I hope I do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but
we'll all find out in about 20 years, right?
I might have been really wrong.
It's so funny. But yeah, thanks again. We really appreciate the support at Eastmans, and I appreciate the support on the podcast. And yeah, thanks for taking the time during show season. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Oh, as always, it was always fun talking with you guys.
Thanks, Josh.
Okay.
Josh.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. It's just always fun conversations when I'm hanging out with that Eastman's crew. We just I don't think I've laughed so hard as at that ATA show. Going out with those guys and the ribbing and the jokes that fly around. It's a pretty good time. They have fun at everything they do, and so yeah, it was a great time at the ATA. I'm really glad I got to meet Josh Kinser. That guy's just really fun to talk to on and off the podcast, and runs a great company, that Swagger Bipods. Make sure to check them out if you're in the market for bipods that mount to your rifle or shooting sticks. Being accurate with a rifle is all about your rest, and they build some of the best rests going. So make sure to check those out. And yeah, just fun hanging out with those guys and fun conversation. Yeah, it'd be fun to get together here at the Hunt Expo, get some more recordings. Gosh, I've got some good ones that I've put together, some good ones coming up. Gosh, we've got a good one next week, putting out one with Jason Matzinger and Dan Pickar. So it's our last one from the ATA. We sat down in the Yeti booth and just got rapping about hunting and different techniques and tendencies, and Jason's kind of got a different approach but consistently produces trophy critters, and so just really fun to pick his brain about his thoughts about hunting elk and hunting deer and antelope and things. Just a great conversation. So that's a really good episode. Really excited to release that to you guys. I think we got it slated for next week, so that'll be coming up. And some other great ones coming up too. Just really excited at the recordings I got, and yeah, just going to keep working hard at my bow hunting. I just can't wait. I am so driven to have the best season I've ever had, and just I'm hungry to put in the work and to achieve my goals. I wish fall was here tomorrow, but it's good that it's a ways away, and I've got time to prepare and time to improve, and really going through my visualizations here lately, just of the shot execution on animals, and it comes to fruition, when you get that shot, like at that Coues deer where I knew I may just get one chance, and you're able to sit on your shot and really execute a perfect one and put a good arrow in that animal. Man, that feels so good. And so working on my visualizations and visualizing these hunts coming up and challenges I'm going to face and how I'm going to overcome them, and there's no shortage of challenges on these hunts, and it's an adventure when you set off. And so I just want to be as well prepared as I can to jump over these hurdles and cross these challenges and accomplish my goals. So it's going to be a really fun year. Really excited. I know you guys are excited too, and starting to plan out your hunts. Right now is tag application season, and I've just been poring over maps at night and statistics and drawing odds, and just trying to make some great adventures, some blue collar adventures for 2019. But it's going to be a ride. I love to chase mule deer early season during the rut. Love to chase elk in September. Antelope are so fun, fine-tune my skills and get me ready. And then some of these off-season hunts, like, for a blue-collar guy to be able to go to New Zealand is crazy, or to have my buddies in Hawaii and plan another trip there. I'd like to go out with one of my buddies this year and go out there and do some hunting. It's just such a great off-season hunt. And then into spring bear, and I'm hungry to get a really nice boar with my bow. Last year I went to Hawaii right towards the end of the season when it started heating up, and I didn't arrow a bear last year, and so I want to make sure that I get after those things and give them the time they deserve and cover country and get some good stalks and put a good arrow in a good broon. I just love that opportunity in the springtime. So plenty of stuff to work on and get ready. I'm just working and fine-tuning all my gear and my bow, and then, like I say, it's -4 out right now. Finish this thing up, and I'll be out bucking a foot of snow with my dog and go get a run in, and just it feels really good and healthy too to be so disciplined and to make sure that I'm putting in the work to be successful in this upcoming year. I love this lifestyle. I love the entire process of bow hunting and the hard work and dedication that it takes to be successful, and I'm willing to put it all in. And I always feel like it might look like I get lucky a lot, and I do. I harvest a lot of nice critters, and I do capitalize when I get the luck, but I always feel like I have to work harder than the next guy, and maybe that's just my attitude at it. Is that I'm willing to, that I know, I got to work twice as hard to discover spots and figure them out and harvest animals out of it. And like you say, maybe it's just a chip on my shoulder in the way I kind of look at things, but I'm willing to put in the work and can't wait to turn up some trophy critters and then, just have the confidence in my skills to be able to capitalize on them this year. So it's going to be a riot. I better finish this thing up, get it released to you guys, and get out on my run and get it before it's starting to get dark out there, so before I freeze out there. Not that the dark stops me or anything, but it's going to get cold tonight. I heard it was supposed to get -20 tonight, so it's just going to keep getting colder. So I'm going to go get in my run, release this podcast, and I'll check in with you guys next week. Be on the lookout for that new podcast I was telling you about, Jason Matzinger, Dan Pickar. It's going to be a great one. And thanks again to Josh from Swagger Bipods. Swagger's just a great company, and we sure appreciate their support. So, with that, I'll check in with you guys next week.